This is Module 6, Lesson 6, two-way tables. We're going to understand how to construct and interpret two-way tables, and this is basically where you use survey data. This comes from the packet. We're going to start with this. See how we've got basically a chart to fill in? On this chart, there was a survey that was conducted. People were asked two questions. Do you play a musical instrument? Do you play a sport? For those who played both a sport and a musical instrument, their answer was recorded here. See, there were 9 people who played both a sport and a musical instrument. For those who played an instrument but did not play a sport, there were 14 of them, okay? People who played a sport but didn't play an instrument, there were 33 of them. And those who didn't play a sport or an instrument, there were 19. See, look where the two lines intersect, and you see what that means. 19 people do not play a sport and do not play an instrument. This column here, the totals column, is not often shown, but you can write it in, particularly when you've got questions. Write it in so you can put a total there. Same thing here with the totals row. Always write it in so you can check your answers. For instance, if I've got this sitting right here, and I want to know the total number of people that play a sport, okay? Those that also play an instrument and those that don't, I'd add those two together. And that would give me 42. Okay, so there's 42 people who both played a sport and played an instrument, there are 42 people who played a sport, okay? Now, how about here? So if you want to know how many do not play a sport, I'd add these two together, all right? And I would come away with 33, okay? 33 people did not play a sport. 42 people played a sport, 32 people did not. How many total people play an instrument, a musical instrument? Add together your 9 and your 14, and you come away with 23. There's a total of 23 that play a musical instrument. How many do not play a musical instrument? Well, add these two together. You got 33 and then 19. So basically, you would have 52. Okay, so how many total people were surveyed? Wouldn't that be all of them that played an instrument and doesn't play an instrument? That would be 75. Wouldn't that be the same thing here for the totals of these? If you add 42 and 33, okay, then you wind up with 75. So these things, the columns add up to what's at the bottom in the total. The rows add up to what's here on the side as the total. These two would add up to this total. These two add up here. You should have the same number here. Now let's answer the questions. How many students play an instrument? Plays an instrument. Well, let's see, go all the way out to the end. There's 23 total students that play an instrument. How many students play an instrument and play a sport? Well, let's see. Plays an instrument, plays a sport. Plays an instrument, plays a sport. That would be 9. How many students do not play a sport? Okay, let's see. Does not play a sport. Total, that would be 33. How many students play a sport but do not play an instrument? Play a sport, does not play an instrument. See where these two intersect? That would be 33. Wait, how many students play a sport but do not play an instrument? Plays a sport, does not play an instrument. 33. How many students do not play a sport? Does not play a sport. 33. Okay. How many total students were surveyed? 75. Okay. We have filled out our two-way table and we have now answered some questions about it. So let's try this one. Now we're going to fill it in as we go. Sidney randomly surveyed students at her school and found that 72 students ride the school bus. Okay. Here's our column, rides the bus. So this is about riding the bus and buying your lunch. The total number that ride the bus was 72. 37 of those 72 students buy lunch from the cafeteria. So those who ride the bus and buy their lunch, there's 37 of those. There are 19 students that do not ride the bus but buy lunch from the cafeteria. Doesn't ride the bus but buys lunch from the cafeteria. That would be 19. And 9 students do not ride the bus or buy lunch. Doesn't ride the bus, doesn't buy lunch. That would be 9 of them, okay? Now, we need to fill in these other sections here. We know that if this is our total here, these columns add up to give us this. So 19 plus 9 would give me, let's see, 28. We know 37 plus something is 72. So I'd say 72 minus 37, and that would give me 35. Okay, now let's add up these, let's find these totals here. 37 plus 19 would be 56. 35 plus 9 would be 44. 72 plus 28 is 100. 56 plus 44 is 100. Okay? So how many students buy their lunch? Let's see, buys lunch from the cafeteria. A total of 56. How many students ride the bus but do not buy their lunch? Rides the bus, does not buy their lunch. 35. How many students do not ride the bus? Does not ride the bus. 28. How many students do not buy their lunch? Does not buy lunch. 44. Okay. How many total students were surveyed? This is the number that was surveyed always, guys. 100. All right? And now let's do another one. Adam surveyed 120 random students in his middle school and asked them if they plan to attend the school musical. Of the 80 students who responded that they are attending the musical, see total 80 are attending, 15 are 7th graders, okay? Of the 46 graders surveyed, so 46 graders were surveyed, that's the total surveyed for the 6th grade. 13 said they did not plan on going. So 13 of these says they're not going. Only 10 8th graders surveyed do not plan on attending. So these are the 10 that aren't going to go from the 8th grade, right? Okay, let's finish filling this out. Well, this tells me a total of 120 are there. There's nothing I can do here because I got 2 things missing. I've got 1 thing missing here so I can find this. These 3 numbers have to total up to 40, right? So I'd say 40 minus 13 minus 10. Okay? That would give me, grab your calculator. Let's see. 40 minus 13 minus 10 gives me 17. Okay, so there's 17 7th graders not going to the musical, right? Look, I can get this number here too. 15 plus 17 would give me the total 7th graders that were surveyed, and that would be 32. Okay, I can get this number too because I've got everything here except 120. These 3 numbers have to add up to 120. So I could say 120 minus 32 minus 40. Okay, 120 minus 32 minus 40 would give me 48. There was a total of 48 8th graders surveyed. 10 of them aren't going to the musical, so that would mean there's 38 going, right? Because 38 plus 10 gives you your 48. And then I'm just missing this number here. Well, if there's a total of 40 6th graders that were surveyed and 13 aren't going, wouldn't I say 40 minus 13? And that would give me the total number of 6th graders who are going. That's 27. So how many 8th graders plan to attend the musical? 8th grade. Going to the musical, that's 38. How many 7th graders were surveyed? 7th graders, the total number that are going, total number not going gives me the total surveyed, 32. How many 6th graders plan to attend? Sixth graders going to the musical, 27. Okay, see how we can answer questions with survey data? Using our two-way tables. Now, we're going to look at what we call relative frequencies. Relative frequencies is whenever we can present the same data as percents, okay? Or as decimals. What percent of these sixth graders are going to the musical? 120 were surveyed. That's 27 out of 120. Okay, to get a relative frequency, that would be 27 out of 120. So you're getting a percent times 100. 27 divided by 120 times 100, okay? 27 divided by 120 times 100 gives us 22.5% of those surveyed from the sixth grade are going to be 22.5% of these people here of the total number surveyed that are sixth graders who are going to the musical. How about this one? 15 out of 120. Okay. 15 divided by 120 times 100 would give you 12.5%. 12.5% of the people percent of the people surveyed are seventh graders who are going to the musical. Okay. Then let's go to this one, 38. You divide your 38 by the whole total 120 surveyed. 38 divided by 120. Multiply that by 100. That gives you percent. 31.7% of the people surveyed are both in the 8th grade and going to the musical. Okay? So what percent of the people are going to the musical? 80 out of 120. 80 divided by 120. Multiply that by 100, and 66.7% of the people surveyed are going to the musical, right? Now about those not going. What percent sixth graders? Let's see. 13 of the 126. 13 divided by 120 times 100 gives me 10.8%. 10.8% of the people surveyed are both in the sixth grade and not going to the musical. All right, 17 out of 120 are seventh graders not going to the musical. So 17 divided by 120 times 100 is 14.2%. 14.2% of the people surveyed are in the seventh grade and not going to the musical. All right, let's try this one. You've got 10, 8th grade, 10 people are not going to the musical. 10 divided by the 120 surveyed, that says 8.3% of the people surveyed are both 8th graders and they're not going to the musical. So what percent of the people are not going to the musical? That would be 40 divided by 120 times 100 is 33%. Well, that makes sense. If you're talking about 33.3%, that makes sense because this would add up to 100%, which is what you got to have for this to make sense. 100% of the people are surveyed. 66.7% are going to the musical. 33.3% are not. That adds up to 100. Okay, now if I add these up, it should be 100. 22.5 and 10.8, let's see. 22.5 plus 10.8 would give me 33.3%. 33.3% of the people are sixth graders. 33.3% of the people surveyed were sixth graders. Let's try the seventh grade. 12.5 plus 14.2. 26.7% of the people surveyed were seventh graders. And then let's see, 31.7 plus 8.3 would give me 40% of them surveyed were eighth graders, right? If you add this up, it should give you 100. 33.3 plus 26.7 plus 40 would give you 100, okay? It gives you 100 this way, 100 this way, right? These should add up to 33.3. Let's check. 10.8 plus 14.2 plus 8.3, 33.3. These should add up to 66.7. Let's see. 22.5 plus 12.5 plus 31.7, 66.7. Okay? What percent of the students surveyed were 8th graders? Well, let's see. That would be 40%, right? What percent of the 6th graders plan to attend the musical? 6th graders going to the musical, 22.5%, right? What percent of the 7th graders do not plan to attend? 7th grade, not going, 14.2%. All right? Okay. Now, let's see. Number 5, let's look at it. The data below shows the results of a survey in which a group of high school seniors were asked if they have a part-time job and if they have their driver's license. Okay. Complete the second table by finding the relative frequencies. So we've got the regular ones. Let's find our relative frequencies. A total of 60 people were surveyed. See, here's where our totals are matched. 25 of the 60 have a driver's license and a part-time job. So let's do our relative frequencies. Now we can do it as a percent or you can do it as a decimal. We're just going to do it as a percent, okay? So let's do this. Let's see, 25 out of 60. 25 divided by 60. Okay, you can say it this way, guys. You could put that as 0.417, or it can be 41.7%, okay? 8 out of 60, 8 divided by 60, that's 0.133, that's the relative frequency, or you can see it as 13.3%. If I add those two together, 0.417 plus 0.133, that would give me 0.55 or 55%. 55% of the people that they talked to, that they surveyed, had a part-time job, right? Now, let's see about the no part-time job. Here it says 17 out of the 60. 17 divided by 60 would give me 0.283. 0.283 or 28.3%, same thing. All right. 10 of the 60. 10 divided by 60 would give me 0.167 or 16.7%. If I add those together, 28.3 plus 16.7, I get 45%. Well, now, does that make sense? Okay. Yes, it does. 45 plus 55 would give me 100% or 1.0 relative frequency. Let's add these together, see what we got. 0.417 plus 0.283 is 0.70, or if you add these two together, that's 70%. 0.133 plus 0.167 is 0.30, which is 30%, okay? 70% plus 30% is 100%. 55% plus 45% is 100%. What percent do not have a part-time job? Let's see. No part-time job, 45%, right? What percent have a part-time job but do not have their license? Have a part-time job, no driver's license, 13.3%, right? If there are 400 seniors total, how many would you expect to have a license and a part-time job? Well, let's see. Part-time job and a license is 41.7%, right? 41.7% of 400, right? So what I need to do is leave, that's 41.7 over 100, okay, is equal to x of 400, right? That's one way to do this. And what do we get if we do that? Let's see. Clear, 41.7 times 400 equal, divided that by 100, 166.8. That's how many you would expect to have a license and a part-time job. 41.7% of the 400. All right, guys, if you're familiar with this, you could just simply multiply that 0.417 times 400, if that makes it easier for you. 0.417 times 400. Okay, it's 166.8. So about 167 would be in that situation, because you're not going to have 8/10 of a person, right? Okay. Let's do another one of these. A group of students who took the same math test were surveyed and asked if they studied for at least 1 hour and if they passed the test. Complete the table, then transfer the answers, then answer the questions that follow. Okay, so we've got the information here. If these are our totals, then we can find this here, because we know that the totals have to add up to 75. 75 people were surveyed. 75 minus 64 would give us 11, all right? We know these two have to add up to 52, so 52 minus 50 gives me 2, all right? We know these two have to add up to that, so 64 minus 50 would give me 14. And we know these two have to add up to give us this total. 14 plus 9 is 23. Okay, about how many students studied for less than 1 hour? Studied less than 1 hour. That would be 23 students. How many students studied for at least 1 hour but did not pass? At least an hour did not pass. That's 2 of them. How many students studied for less than an hour? Here's less than an hour and passed. That would be 14. Okay. Now let's do our relative frequency table. That means that we're talking about how many out of 75. 14 out of 75 means that you would divide 14 by 75, and you can multiply that by 100 to get your percent. 18.7%. See, I'm just going to do it in percent this time. You don't have to do it in relative frequencies. I just wanted to show you one like that. Okay, now there's 9 out of 75 that studied less than an hour and did not pass. 9 divided by 75 times 100 gives you 12%. Okay. The total here would be, let's see, add those together, 30.7% that studied for less than an hour. So if we're talking percents here, you know your total's 100%. You could just simply subtract 100 minus 30.7. That should give you 69.3%, shouldn't it? Let's check here. 52 out of 75, 69.3%. Okay? Now, let's find the answer here. 50 out of 75, 50 divided by 75, would give you 66.7%. All right. And this is 2 out of 75. 2 divided by 75. That would give you 2.7%, or 2.6%. Okay. If you add these two together, 66.7 plus 2.6, you come up with 69.3%. Okay. Now, let's add these two together. 18.7 plus 66.7. That would be 85.4% of the people passed. Okay, let's add these two together, and you would get 14.6% of the people did not pass, right? If you add your 85.4 and your 14.6, they should add up to 100. So should these add up to 100, okay? So you can check yourself. What percent of the students studied for at least 1 hour? An hour or greater, that's 69.3%. What percent of the students did not pass? Did not pass, 14.6%. What percent of the students studied for at least 1 hour and did not pass? Studied at least 1 hour, did not pass, 2.6%. Okay. Now, let's go to the next page. We're going to skip 4. We're going to go to the next page. And we're going to look at number 7. A group of random 8th graders were surveyed and asked if they have a Facebook profile and if they have a Snapchat profile. Results are shown in the Venn diagram. We're going to complete the two-way table using the Venn diagram. How many have Snapchat and Facebook? Well, it's only where these two overlap. That would be 16. How many have Facebook but no Snapchat? Facebook but no Snapchat. That would be 6. So the total here is 16 plus 20 plus 6, which is 22. Okay? How many have no Facebook but do have Snapchat? Snapchat but no Facebook. There's 20 of them. How many have no Facebook and no Snapchat? That would be these 8 that are left out. So there's a total of 28 with no Facebook. Okay, so let's add these up. The total number of Snapchats would be 36. The total number of people with no Snapchat would be 14. The total number of people that were surveyed, you'd add these two together, and you get 50. Same here, add them together, you get 50. How many students surveyed have Snapchat? Snapchat, okay, that would be 36. How many of the students surveyed do not have Facebook? Facebook, no Facebook, okay, no Facebook would be 28. Complete the relative frequency table using the data from question 7. Okay, round to the nearest 100. All right. How many have Facebook and Snapchat? 16 out of 50. So you divide 16 by 50. 16 divided by 50 and multiply by 100, that'd be 32%. What percent have, let's see, 6 out of 50, okay? 6 divided by 50 times 100 is 12%. So what percent have Facebook? Add those two together, you got 44%. All right, now let's try this one. 20 out of 50. 20 divided by 50. That would give you 40% that have Snapchat with no Facebook. 8 out of 50. 8 divided by 50 would give you 16%. Now keep in mind, this is your total, so you can add it together. That's 56%. Here we're finding our total that has Snapchat. That would be 72%. What percent has no Snapchat? Let's see, that would be 28%. That should add up to 100 if you do that. Yep, adds up to 100%. So does this, okay? If there are 380 total 8th graders, approximately how many have Facebook? Okay, so let's see. Of 380, how many have Facebook? Facebook, 44%. So that would be 380 times 44%. That would be multiplied by 44 over 100, right? Okay. If you do that, 380 that would give you 167.2 or 167. If there are 380 total 8th graders, approximate how many do not have Facebook or Snapchat? Let's see, no Snapchat, no Facebook. That would be 16%. 380 times 16%. That's 16 over 100, right? Okay. 380 times 16 divided by 100 would give you 60.8 or 61 of them. Okay. Now we have handled two-way tables, which are usually used for survey information. And we've shown you how to use relative frequencies or percents to find data and talk about data.